Hi, I'm Dave Walters, an almost 30-year educator and history teacher. I have a bachelor's degree in history from Cal Poly Pomona and have served in multiple districts in various positions. I was a history coordinator at the Santa Clara County Office of Education and sat on the state committee that tuned up the history social science framework. I've dedicated my career to teaching history, an historical way of thinking, and how to view history as a foundation for today. Well, it seems like there are always two, Ford or Chevy, Mac or PC, VHS or Beta, iPhone or Android. It was true with electricity also, alternating current or direct current. But before we get into the current wars, let's back up to lighting up the night. After the caveman stole lighting and brought it into a cave on a burning branch, controlling light inside looked like a candle. Well, actually, a lot of candles. Candles on holders, candles in candelabras, candles in front of shining metal or maybe a mirror, candles everywhere. The soft glow of a candle is great in a romantic scene or a movie, but when it comes to doing any work or reading documents, the situation rapidly changes. It takes a lot of candles to create a good reading environment, if you don't mind the wax dripping on the table or on your pages. The next step up from candles were gas lamps. Gas came in two varieties, liquid and a gaseous state. Rockefeller made a fortune selling kerosene for lamps, kind of like the one you see on the screen that you might remember from when you were young. That old white gas was just kerosene by another name. Americans, of course, were famous or infamous for their whaleboats that brought back oil which was boiled from the head of the whale. Whale oil burned the brightest, but the real cost, the lives of all of those whales, was devastating. So much so that only two major nations ignore today's international ban on whaling, Japan and Russia. In a gaseous form, gas from coal or wood was distilled and piped into houses and businesses in the 18th and 19th centuries. Using appliances specifically designed for this task, this form of lighting was the first type used by municipalities in industrialized countries. Gas lamps, though, created a lot of soot. They smelled like rotten eggs, the smell of sulfur in the gas, and they smelled like ammonia. The ever-present threat of an explosion was an ongoing concern for any closed space, whether it was public or private. Electricity, though, changed all that. The first use of electricity was with an arc light. It was constructed just as it sounds. An electric current arced or jumped between two ends of metal. The mini lightning bolt created light. Arc lights required a lot of current, and they created a lot of heat, and so they were useless for houses. Cities, however, proudly announced their arrival into the modern age by constructing a tower to place their arc lights, like the one in San Jose, California that we see here. Brightly lit close to the source, the fall off was stark, and while it pushed crime away from the tower, burglars found targets just outside the illuminated circle. A company that could make a soft, safe, cool, long-lasting electric light source to replace the gas could make a killing. Now, Thomas Edison wasn't the first to invent the light bulb. Early attempts at vacuum bulbs burned out quickly. His lab was in a race to find the correct combination of electricity and the material for the filament that would burn long and cool. He cracked the code by using tungsten as that filament. A report about a scheduled demonstration to show off his new light bulb in Menlo Park, New Jersey, before the press and other dignitaries stated, the awestruck audience at his factory also noticed the incandescent bulbs didn't flicker like gas lamps and emitted softer light than harsh arc lamps. Edison's invention of a long-lasting, cool light bulb was only the first part of the equation that would make Edison rich and famous. The second part of the equation was the delivery of the current to power all those electric lights? Edison's answer was to use direct current. Using New York City as his initial target market, he built generators under the streets to create electricity that could be delivered via above-ground wires to customers. Others did the same, many under an Edison license, and soon wires crisscrossed the city. Telephone and telegraph wires were strung on the same poles as electric wires, creating a web of electricity that every company could blame someone else if a short caused a problem. Electricity could be dangerous, as we know. The tragic consequences of all those wires was reported by the New York Times on October the 12th, 1889. A man astride of the lofty crossbars of a telephone pole, surrounded and upheld by a network of wires, his face distorted, flames issuing from his mouth and nostrils, playing about his hands and spurting from the soles of his feet, was the sight which riveted the attention and fascinated by its horror thousands of persons, including a large number of prominent citizens. The article went on. Mr. Feeks was astride the fourth crossbar from the bottom and had one foot resting on the crossbar beneath, and was apparently in the act of reaching out for a wire which he intended to cut, when he was suddenly seen to shiver and tremble as though he had received a violent shock. He put out his right hand as if to steady himself, and immediately there was a bright flash, white flash of flame under his hand. Well, Edison's use of direct current meant he had to build generators close together as the strength of the voltage decreased with distance. He hired a young Croatian who discovered a solution to this problem. Nikola Tesla tried to convince Edison to use his new alternating current, which could be transmitted over long distances. But perhaps because of the royalties he was receiving or the investment in all that DC equipment, or maybe just his pride, Edison rejected Tesla's invention. By this time, though, the Edison Company wasn't the only electric company in town. Tesla left Edison and he went to work for George Westinghouse. Well funded by what we today call venture capitalists, Westinghouse needed an edge to overcome Edison's head start. The nation's cities were anxious to convert to electric lighting, deciding to use Edison's direct current or Westinghouse's alternating current would be the first decision for future purchases, from fixtures to light bulbs to generators, locations for power stations. Eventually, as we know, electricity would be used to power appliances, factories, trolley cars, radios, and just a whole host of things. Feeling the heat of competition, Edison wouldn't take the fight standing down, though. He had a plan. Tesla, the namesake of the car, worked for Edison for a while, as I mentioned. He put himself to the task of long-range electricity transmission. His answer was alternating current, a current that reverses directions quickly. In the US, that rate is 60 times per second, or 60 hertz. In Europe, the pressure to outdo the Paris World's Fair, which featured the Eiffel Tower, along with the limited time to construct the city, which had to be built on a budget and temporarily, were among the challenges the committee had to deal with. The Exposition Committee didn't really care about the current wars one way or the other. They wanted to light the expo and do it cheap. The bids came in, $500,000 from Edison and about $399,000 from Westinghouse, now teamed up with Edison to deliver the AC current. Tesla gave up his rights to AC current to help Westinghouse gain this contract. The White City, which was lighted by night, pointed to a future with safe, clean, pleasant electric lighting. And along with the Ferris wheel, it would establish the Chicago event as a bellwether for all future expositions. In 1895, only 2 years after the beginning of the Columbian Exposition in Chicago, the world's first major water-powered electrical generators at the Niagara Falls Atom Station were alternating current. Electricity was delivered throughout New York and to most of the East Coast from the Adams plant. The plant ended Edison's dream of controlling the market with direct current. Eventually, Edison and Westinghouse would join together as General Electric and become one of the wealthiest companies in the world. It was not the light bulb by itself that changed everything. It was the bulb and the means to deliver the electrical current that ended the night and revolutionized work and sleep. Productivity exploded in factories that could take advantage of the new electric lights to run 24 hours a day. Initially, this meant longer shifts for workers, but eventually, unions were able to reduce the workday to 8 hours, and factories settled on the now familiar day, swing, and graveyard shifts. Profits exploded, although there are no industry-wide numbers available to say how much. One consequence of safe, clean electric lights was the end of nights. Our bodies, naturally turned to the dark of night, don't quite know what to do with this new soft electric light. According to the Smithsonian, the consequence was to interrupt the normal biological rhythms of life and to alter our schedules of work and leisure. Industrial plants could operate shifts around the clock, for example, and the concept of the city that never sleeps became a reality. Electric lights, though, disrupt our circadian rhythm, and that can lead to a circadian disruption, compromising well-being. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not willing to return to the days of candles and gas. I'm happy with modern life, but I certainly feel the city never sleeps or the 24/7 vibe. My lights today have expanded to include all manner of screens that, it seems to me, further distract from any natural work-sleep rhythm. Thinking about it, maybe it's less the screens and more the content on those screens that's disruptive. Of course, as we think about it, here's a really starter list of the things that electricity is used for today. Computers, gadgets with batteries, or anything that takes batteries or direct current power, cars, bicycles, golf carts, TV, all manner of communication items. Do you suppose you could really live in a world without electricity? Like I said, I don't think I could. Well, next month we're going to look at NATO. It's been in the newspaper quite a bit here recently, so we're going to take a look at it. Why does NATO exist in the first place? 75 years since it was designed. Is it really necessary? Is it aiding something? Is it preventing something? So I hope you'll join me the next time for our live show. That'll be our live time. That'll be August the 15th, and it'll be here on recorded version after that.